In this video, we're going to take a look at the drawing for the drum and hopefully explain some of the different types of dimensions shown here. Again, this is intended to get you started. This is a high-level overview kind of video. So taking a look at the drum, my front view is set up here. I can see the wire hole in the front view, and everything else is in profile. I'll need a top view. That's where I get the set screw information. My right view gives me the bolt hole pattern and the counter bore. And then my left view is still necessary because I have a hole back here that's pinning the wire in place. So 4 views necessary. I have my half scale shaded isometric. I have my note about material, tolerancing, quantity. So now let's take a look at each view. In the front view, I chose to group all of my lathe information together. I need to know the outermost information. I need to know the overall length, the length of these end caps, the inner diameter. And so I put all of that clustered together because all of that is needed for the lathe. I can't move this counter bore anywhere but on the right view. I will use that on the lathe, but it's okay to put on this right view. Now note, this is not a dimension, this is a hole call out. So let me put that in and show you on annotations, there's a hole call out tool. This allows us to get all of the information embedded into the hole wizard for this feature. And so we can get the counter bore and the depths all at the same place. All of these hole call outs use this hole call out tool. So that I should also note here, so all of that information was captured on this hole. I have had students in the past have trouble with this hole. If you recall, we created an 1/8 inch end mill cut and then we put a hole through that. If you're finding that your information is not all coming through in a single note, simply add a second note. If necessary, that is the correct way to dimension it. If we can put it in the single note, that is obviously neater, cleaner, easier to look at. What else? So that's my front view. Note that there's center lines. Review if you've forgotten how to do center lines. Under annotation, center lines are here. And typically I can just choose to auto insert. If you're having trouble with that, seek some help or from Megan, Jared, myself, somebody sitting next to you. So that's center lines, and then you have center mark here. And I think that concludes the front view. So let's take a look up at the top view. In the top view, this is an example. I was not able to put all of this in one hole call out because I really have 2 separate holes, and SolidWorks is insisting that I separately dimension them. Notice if I zoom way in, one is to the outer hole and one is to the inner hole. So just be real careful as you select those. The only other information I need here, because it lies on the center line, I need to know where it falls left to right. Centered is not a dimension. You have to dimension that. Let's look at the right view. We have our 4 holes in our bolt hole pattern. We have our bolt hole circle. I've already spoken about the counter bore, so that gets the right view. And then here, this is the hardware that pins the wire in place, and its vertical position. Again, because it falls on the center line extension, we don't need to specify a horizontal position. It's essentially at 0. And I'm just noticing this actually has something interfering with my center mark. So we're going to take a look at that. Oh, and it's this dimension. So this dimension should have come off over here so that I could have my center mark. And I'm going to go ahead and take out my circular center mark and show you how that goes in as a reminder. And then I think that concludes this video. So here I grab my center mark tool. This is a special circular center mark. So I'm going to come and choose that on my options. Now I'm going to select each of my circles in order. And it didn't quite extend out past the part, so I guess I'm going to choose a manual. Oops. Oh, I see. I need a check mark here, and then I can add a second center mark. There we go, to get all the way past the edge of the part. And I should at the very least see a very clear gap around this center mark. Center mark. Say that a few times fast. I think there's a center line interfering here, but I'm going to have trouble finding it in the video. So be aware that sometimes center lines will interfere because I've got something happening right here. But as long as you can see that gap, it should be pretty clear. I think that concludes an overview of this drawing, and so we will stop there with this video.